Okay. Hi, Jamie. Let's see. It is Wednesday morning. Barb is at women's Bible study, so got home. I like to do it when nobody's around. So I made some notes to add on to the last one. So last one was up through grade school, and so I have been studying. Um, I wouldn't I want because I'm going to be psychology or psychiatry or something, forced to, and looking at my past and things, and I know that you have kind of got on me a bit about why do you keep looking back at Hilliard and that kind of stuff, but I think it's been very good for me personally anyway, and helpful to understand why I am who I am, what made me who I am, different things, and I think that. Um, uh, the saying that can a leopard change its spots or get rid of its spots? I do believe that we are born exactly who we are. Everyone's different, and from conception, from the time we become a embryo or a zygote or whatever, we've got all of our DNA, everything about us is set. Um, and now that doesn't mean that you can't learn, can't become a better person, but I think you have to figure out, you have to learn who you are, how God made you, if you're ADHD, if dyslexic, all these kind of things, and so you know how to be the best person you can. You got to figure out who you are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and then and ask God to improve you and be able to use you the best way possible. And so I think all that is true and important. I think that babies go to heaven before the age of accountability. I think I don't know exactly what you feel about that age of accountability thing. I think I always felt like I was a good boy. I always wanted to be a good boy. I was proud of the fact that I was a good boy. And I know when I crossed the line and that I was, 16 and decided I was going to make bad decisions and choices and choose to not listen to my conscience or God. But I think that um, I think from conception, I think that if a baby is aborted or miscarriage or whatever, they're not held accountable. But I. I had a lot of influences on my life that made me the person I was, and I didn't have the influences I need to help me become the person best that I could be, I guess. And I think all that's important, and I really looked into that, and I think it's all good. Um, I think I'm smart enough to understand that not get into the psychobabble stuff, but I think I'd have made a good psychologist, psychiatrist, if that was something that God wanted me to be or do. Um, but I think when I share with the kids at juvenile or anybody, I keep an open mind about everything. And I know a lot of those kids were born with problems, and a lot of them came from parents who had alcohol syndrome and different things. And but I think that when I became a Christian, I really felt like old things had passed away. I become a new creation, and I just didn't. I didn't take in consideration that my past and people I'd hurt and things, and I think it's important to realize that by the grace of God, God has forgiven all my sins, I'm accountable for what I did. I don't feel guilty about it anymore. I know God's forgiven me. I did my time. I locked up. I paid my penance. I did all that stuff. But it's still very important, I think, to realize, figure out who you are, how you're different from other people, what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are, and so that looking back at that, I didn't have any kind of relationship with my mom or dad, a little bit with one brother, but my friends were everything to me. And I'm pretty sure I probably told you about the Mormon family that moved into my neighborhood just a block away from my house. And it was the Newmans and the Normans, and there was one dad, two moms, 18 kids. And I never understood that for a long time. That I knew they were Mormons, but I didn't know what that meant. And those kids were a blessing to me. I was over there all the time, and they looking back, they didn't maybe have the best growing up. They probably had a lot of problems in that house. I know the dad went to jail for molesting kids and grandkids of his. I didn't know any of that, but I the one that was closest to my age was Craig Norman. So the Newmans were the dad was a Newman, so that was his main wife, and the secondary wife, all those kids were Normans. So they had some inferiority things there. They were the second family, but Craig Norman was close to my age, my best friend for a while there. And when they moved away, that was real hard on me. That was really sad for me. And I ran into him again when I was going to the chapel and in Spokane, and had a chance to talk to him and try to witness to him, and he didn't really care about any of that stuff. But he died shortly after that, and one of my first friends to die. So now Mike and Jeff were my two best friends longest. I knew Mike for as long as I can remember. Mike Gibson, he was from the St. Pat's. He went to school at St. Pat's, and I think they went through all the way through 7th grade. So I wasn't going to school with him until 8th grade, I guess. But we were still friends. I remember going over to his house and once in a while, and my mom would send me over there to play with, because they had like 6 kids in their family, big Catholic family, and I would spend time with him. And then once I got into junior high school, I met Jeff first day, and then the three of us all became really close friends. And of course, those two guys died. Let's see, I have a lot to say about dogs. All the books I've read from ADHD experts say ADHD people really should have at least one dog. I got 2 dogs, and growing up from the Catholic Church, Father O'Malley had a raffle, and my mom entered my name in the raffle, hoping to get a set of silverware or something. But she ended up, my ticket won a dog, a puppy. It was a Kerry Blue Terrier, which is a very Irish dog, and but it was my mom's dog. She's the one that loved that dog, and I didn't. Again, this was when my dad was molesting my sister, and she had that dog trained to protect her. I never understood that. But, she just thought it was funny. She'd say, like, come and try to hit me, and the dog would just go nuts. And I was scared of that dog. And I think she did that because to protect herself from my dad. And so that was really not my dog. That was her dog. But I finally got a dog when Ruthie and got her 2 dogs. And I ended up getting one of the sister of one of those dogs. That was Belle, and that was get into that later. But that was a great thing, a great dog until she died. Another friend I had at that time was a neighbor kid named Skip. He was a wild kid, and but I hung around him for many years. And when he moved up to Deer Park, and I would, even in junior high school, I'd ride my 10-speed bicycle all the way up to Deer Park to go see him. And he was another good friend of mine that I stayed in contact with and witnessed to, and actually had a good effect on. And he invited me out to his house, and Barb and we met his pastor, and he wanted to tell me how much he appreciated me witnessing to him, and that he had a great relationship with Jesus until he caught his wife, found out she was having an affair, and then he went to the hotel where he thought they were having sex at, and he came in with a camera and a baseball bat in order just to catch them. And the guy had a gun and shot him several times in the hotel with his daughter watching. And that was a hard one. Let's see, paper. I'm looking at my notes here. So paper routes. I never had an allowance. If I wanted something, I had to earn it myself. And I would say from the 3rd grade on, I always had a paper route. And I would go with my friends Newmans and Normans on their paper route, or they'd help me on my paper route, and had always had cash, to buy toys or something like that. But that was a scary thing, a little tiny kid in Hilliard, especially collecting. I don't know if you ever had a paper route, but we had to go and collect the money at night, and Hilliard people didn't want to pay, so that was a big thing. Later on, in junior high, I worked washing dishes at restaurants, and worked at Gonzaga for a couple of years in the kitchens there, washing dishes as a kid. Um, I think I've always been a comedian. I can say that now, that I am a comedian. Uh, that's just the way it is. I might not be a funny comedian, but I am a comedian. As a kid, I was always telling jokes, and I was always imitating other comedians that I'd see on TV or something, and I had a whole list of jokes that I went through. I loved trying to make people laugh. And I love music. I am a musician, even though I don't play hardly ever or anything. And I do love singing and playing my guitar or playing my trumpet. And I got my first one good thing my mom did for me is I wanted the trumpet so bad. And when I was third grade, she took me downtown to a pawn shop, and we bought I think it was $10 or something, an old cornet, and that got me started playing music, which was a big part of my life, playing and listening to music. That's something I figured out who I am, um, I think, I Popeye. I don't really watch Popeye much, but Popeye'd always say, I am what I am, and I ain't no more. And I know my limitations. I know my positive things. I know my negative things, and Jesus helps me to with both of those things. Another cartoon was Roger Rabbit. Jessica Rabbit was the kind of sexy drawn lady, and she said, she goes, "I'm not a bad person. I'm just drawn that way." So anyway, whatever that's worth. Let's see here. I when I was really going through stuff, I took a lot of trips back to Hilliard and just walked around my neighborhood, and it brought back memories, and I would pray the whole time I was walking around and asking God to show me things. And I don't know if you've ever returned to your neighborhood. I would highly recommend that. What else we got here? I think the things I was really wanting to kind of add on. Oh, once I found out about ADHD and different things, and they say that we don't have filters. One of the things that make us different than other people is well, a lot of stuff that we will let things out without running through filters. And I've learned. I think I've knowing that everything that pops into my head is maybe not the best thing to say out loud. I think I've learned from that. That's one thing that's a negative part of the ADHD. And knowing that, I've tried to be more careful about what I say and give myself, count to 10 or something before I say something. And also, things get in. I can't stop things from getting in. I have no filters. I have no barriers to. So somebody says something, and it hurts. And I'm a sensitive person, and I think you are too, And I think I think everybody gets hurt. The sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. That's not true at all. I think from an early age, all of us are affected by things that are said or done to us, and I think that I was never able to build a wall around myself for protections, and so. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think anybody's really able to. I think you can say that. You have your defenses up. That's the kind of person I am. I've had to shield myself from things like that. But I don't think they're really able to. I think it's a deception that they aren't being affected by those things. They have this tough exterior that they built up, but it's just a facade. It's like the it's like the emperor's new clothes. They think that they have all this protection and armor about them, and they're not affected by anything, and they've convinced themselves of that. But I see that they're naked. They really have no protections at all. And I can see when people are hurt, and I feel for them, and I'm sorry. I try not to hurt anybody. I try not to say things that would hurt people. I do, and I work on that all the time. But I think everybody is affected that way. No matter what they say, um, I think they're hurt. And I think, they say kids who are hurt kids. And so I was hurt, but I didn't let it harden me or affect me. I couldn't, and so I've never been in a fight. I've never hurt anyone physically, intentionally, on purpose. I've hurt lots of people's feelings, and I feel bad about that, and I work on that. So that's something I've learned about that. So I think that was everything. To catch up on that stuff, I will start another one, picking up in junior high school.